Listen, there's a lot to learn when growing and scaling your business.
That's why we created the Business Choreography podcast, where we talk about choreographing your marketing, operations, and sales into dynamic systems that increase your revenue and your impact.
We'll explore solid business principles and discuss all things that make businesses dance to success with clarity.
We'll help you figure out where the holes are in your business and what you can do to fix them. Think of us as your official business choreographers, aka your insider growth strategists.
Remember, your choreography matters. Welcome to the Business Choreography Podcast. What is up, everybody? My name is Michael Johnson, and welcome to the Business Choreography Podcast, backstage and behind the scenes, where we talk about the planning and composition of the parts and pieces of business that make up your experience that you deliver to your audience, your team, and you. I'm your host, as I said, Michael Johnson, former professional ballroom dancer, business investor, and business choreographer. And today on the show, we have an awesome guest, Katie Smith. Katie is a marketer dedicated to transforming chaos and stagnation into strategic success. Her approach empowers businesses to connect with consumers, promote shared values, and be a force for good in today's world. So let's get Katie on the stage and get behind the scenes so that we can actually see what's going on and how it all works. Here we go. Katie, join us on the stage. Thank you so much for being here today. It is a pleasure to have you.
Thanks so much. I'm really excited to be here for the conversation.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to dig in. We've got our first segment here. So I'm going to run the intro for that, and then we'll jump into it. You ready to go?
I'm ready.
Awesome. CHOREO Confessions, the unscripted reality, where we talk about choreography that fell apart or just didn't work, and we want to know why. Awesome. CHOREO Confessions. This one's fun because I think we all talk about the things that work, and we're programmed to do that. And in marketing, we want to talk about and show people what we're good at and everything that went so well. But anybody who's been in business knows that that's not always how it goes. So here's where we want to talk about the unscripted reality, where we talk about all the things that fell apart. We choreographed something. You probably choreographed something in your business, and it seemed like it was the best plan, and then it went awry, and everything hit the fan, and then we did something different. So tell us about something that you've created or choreographed that just didn't go as well as you were planning it to go.
Do I have to choose just one?
We'll stick with one for now. We'll come back and do it another. Some other ones
actually,
later.
I have a great example. It's actually helped me develop my business, how I work. And I really, when I started out, people were like, okay, what's your system? What's your system? Right. And I was like, okay, I got to put people through a system. And so I have ADHD, right? And so normal thought process to system, that's not my strength. My strength is like, I can come up, I can see the big picture for miles, right? Like I come up, I see the goal, and then I can very quickly architect it backwards, right? But I have a hard time looking forward. So I was like, I got to have a system. I got to make a system. So each time I would try to make a system for a new client that I'd say, okay, I've got this client. I want to accomplish this marketing strategy. So before I meet with a client, I'm like, okay, it's going to go this way. I love to architect very specific things in like my ClickUp or any of my like management tools, very specific. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to ask them this question, then they're going to do this, right? But that's, I would say every time I did this, I would break it. Because I break even systems that I build, I break, especially
Right.
if they're really, really tight. And I kept getting frustrated, or I'm like, gosh, I'm not being consistent. I'm not putting these people through a system. But a really great mentor pointed out to me that I have experiences across so many different industries, doing so many different things. I have a recipe book. I don't have a system.
Right.
So I have all of these different solutions, and I can combine them, and I have all these different techniques that I can use. And so it doesn't make sense for the way that I work and the way that I work with my clients and the kinds of clients that I work with, people who are out of the box. They're trying to do something a little bit different. Why would we put them through the same system when we're trying to make something different? So
Right.
now, instead of investing so much time in creating these systems, I just have my recipe book that when
Right.
I talk to a client, we can figure out what we want to solve, and then I have what we need to solve. So that's
Right.
been a huge lesson for me.
I love that. That's great. I think that's it's such a big deal for a lot of people, the being able to distinguish that will really help them move the needle, because I think a lot of people just get so stuck in, like, it has to be this way or it's not going to work. And sometimes it has to be the way that works for you. And that takes a little bit of extra effort. It can't just be a one size fits all.
Yeah. And then what happens when inevitably something out of the blue throws you off course? If you can't be nimble and you can't be dynamic,
Right.
that's really hard. And if you are a large established business, systems are key. That is so important.
Right.
And I do help people build their systems, but the way that we come about it is much more creative way,
Sure.
and we're much more nimble because you have
Right.
to be at that stage.
Right. Well, I love that. All right. Let's jump into the next segment. Here we go. Current Events Choreo, exploring today's choreography, where we talk about the best piece of choreography in the news or current events. All right, like the intro said, this is the best piece of choreography that you've seen lately in the news or in current events, things that are going around that you've witnessed or observed and that you just think are cool. And I think it's important for us to bring these out because we all see different things. We all have such different perspectives, but there are some really cool things going out there in the world today.
Yeah. So I live in Montana, which
Okay.
is, there's tourism and agriculture, right? And
Right.
you wouldn't think that they would have a whole lot together, but I live very close to one of the entrances of Yellowstone National Park, right?
Okay.
And so we have all of these. I live in a small town. The population is 7,000 people, but we have millions of people who are like coming in and out of the park. So I've been working with a local leadership group here to, one of the problems that we're tackling is how can we make this work for everybody, right? How do
Right.
we balance the needs of everybody? It's super complicated, right? And as I'm learning it, it's more and more. But what we're seeing is community, the importance of
Sure.
community coming together, listening to those needs, and then coming up with creative solutions. It's
Right.
interesting, right? Because you are not going to make everybody happy.
Of course.
Um, Not even like the middle ground is going to make everybody happy.
Right.
But it's been really interesting to see, what happens, especially looking at how are things coming out, messaging online, who's speaking and where are they speaking? And
Right.
it's really interesting because the majority of people are not speaking out online. They're actually
Mm.
speaking together in their homes. We're coming together to come up with these solutions, right? One of the big things that we talked about is how do we make sure that our place feels like a safe place for tourists to come? So
Right.
there's so many things, with Montana being a more rural state, with, after COVID, people are worried about their health. And so how can we, and then also, we have done a good job. There are a lot of people coming to Montana. So
Right.
our Chamber of Commerce has been talking about in the summertime, they use their dollars to talk about, to advertise like etiquette, like how do you behave when you come to these communities? What can you expect when you come to these communities? We're rural. So
Right.
it's been really cool to see all of these different pieces of community coming together, to come up with solutions to make things work and not be stuck like, I wish things were different or I wish things were
Right.
how they were before, but this is how things are now. What can we do, all together, different pieces to make things adjust to how things have changed.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And it's such there's so much to be orchestrated there and to really put together. And I can't imagine the difficulties of trying to do that to make the locals continue to feel like, okay, we still like it here. We still want to be here, which you don't want to chase them away because it's part of the infrastructure and what needs to be there for tourists to be able to still come. If they're not there, then there's nowhere for the tourists to show up to, and then everything just runs amok. So I can imagine that the orchestrating of that is very complex.
Yeah, it is, even for a small town.
Sure,
But it's really neat to see that dance, really.
sure. I love that. All right, let's jump into the next one. This one's super fun. Here we go. Choreo Crap, exposing the bad choreo, where we expose the worst pieces of choreography that have been purchased. This one I think is super fun because it's really so much about an experience I think all of us as business owners have had. We've bought something for our business, maybe some coaching, maybe some education or something that we thought was going to help us move the needle, and it turned out to just be crap. And so I love talking about this because it sort of helps other business owners look at it in a different way and start to understand like, oh, maybe I shouldn't buy that, or, oh, that actually would have worked for me, even though it didn't work for you. So I would love to hear something that you've purchased that just kind of was crap.
Oh my God. I feel like this is therapy. So,
Well, it is for all the listeners, right? Because like we get to benefit from maybe some of the trauma you had to go through.
right. So, so I love to have data and to look at data and to find trends.
Right.
So fun, right? But I like it when when people give it to me, like data experts. Some of my clients, we have that, or I bring somebody in. So I thought a couple of years ago that maybe I should become a data analyst, right? That would be a great thing.
Sure.
And I took a course, like a certification course from a reputable university that had like a curriculum program. And I was like, this is going to be great. It's going to be look so good. And now I'll be able to like get whatever data I want. And then I'll be able to do, all of the mathematics. And I will suddenly develop a love of spreadsheets. That's
Exactly.
definitely going to happen. So I went through this program with Cornell, right? And the program was great for people who had experience with like data and numbers and spreadsheet.
Right.
I had a very rudimentary understanding of how to like formulas and spreadsheets. I am a writer, like
Right.
I'm a person who writes a lot, and like it did not go so well. It was so hard. My husband had to come in sometimes, and like I was like, what is this? Like, and I went through it and somehow I passed, but so I think what did help me with that was I have a better understanding of when I talk to my data people. I also have a 10 times greater appreciation for them.
Sure.
There's you can't be an expert at everything. And I want that data that I can have to make decisions, but my time is not best spent getting all that calculation done.
Right.
I should pay somebody else to do that, and continue doing that. It wasn't too. I also got like a grant to do it for like this business development thing, and I was like, I love learning. I'm always taking courses. Like I always
Sure.
want to learn more. I love, I talk about like the best thing. Shout out to Marketing Profs. I go to their conference every year. I'm a member. I love learning from them. That is a style of learning that I do. But I know that I don't need to get into data analytics
Right.
at all ever again.
Well, I mean, I think that's like such a huge lesson to be learned from the industry and for all of us, I think, because learning and understanding our strengths, understanding that there are plenty of people to leverage out there. And if you're trying to leverage your strength, maybe you should focus more on leveraging something that isn't your strength so that you can really take full advantage of what they have to offer. I would imagine that maybe many of us lean towards going and buying things that we're interested in and that we're good at, and then maybe we're disappointed because we're already good at it and it's maybe not meeting our expectations. But it seems as though, from like listening to your story, it's just another way to reiterate, hey, it's so important to leverage your things that aren't strengths so that you can pull people in that are experts at what they do and utilize their great knowledge and experience.
Yeah. I mean, and it's so funny because that's me, right? Like I'm a specialist.
Right.
Marketing strategy, that is what I do, that is what I see. I love it so much, and I am hoping that people will say, "Wow, that's a weakness that we have in our company. I'd like to partner with Katie with Wild Path Consulting, bring them in to do that." And so, you know, to turn the tables on, it was just another lesson that, hey, this is really what I enjoy doing. It's what I'm really good at. I don't need to branch off. I can partner with other people who have that strength, maybe
Right.
people from class. But it's just one of those lessons.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, let's move right into my favorite segment. I think I say that about all of them, but let's move into the next segment. Here we go. Choreo Confidential, the secret sauce, where we talk about insider secrets that make businesses dance to success. All right, Choreo Confidential. This is where we hear about what's going on behind the scenes. What are you building that's working? What are you doing in the background that's really good? And let's talk a little bit about the secret sauce behind your business, because I think that's where we've kind of led people to. Like, they're listening, they're going, "Oh, well, tell me more about what it is that you do. I want to hear more about it." So, what's going on behind the scenes that's working these days?
Sure. Yeah. So something that I'm really excited about is the customer journey, but the new customer journey, right?
Sure.
So in the past 4 years, things have changed so rapidly. Consumers have so much more control of the buying process.
Right.
And so it's really been interesting and cool to see that change happen so fast. And then we as marketers or salespeople, business in general, we need to adapt to that. So one of the coolest things that I've started doing is mapping these custom customer journeys. And I don't think that they shouldn't stay within the marketing department anymore. They're company wide. And so we need to use not boring marketing language to talk about the awareness phase and what are the customers doing and what's our CTA. I recently did this project with a partner in Ohio. We're trying to working with the state to increase the number of foster parents, right? And so we need to do awareness and marketing from, statewide. Things are broken down to reach different people, but then we also need to help all the individual agencies. How can we help them with their recruitment as well? And I was like, we have to get everybody on the same page, right? So same
Right.
thing, if you're in an organization, all the different pieces of the organization with all their different knowledges, the one common core thing is the industry.
Yeah.
So I often come in as an insider because I don't need to have the deep in-depth knowledge. I am kind of coming in as like, okay, what we've been doing isn't working. We need a new fresh perspective. So I do a lot of listening. So
Yeah.
we had a lot of data, we had a lot of information about what made people want to become foster parents already. And then with my clients, we conducted a lot of interviews with people who are working within the agencies within that to understand the process that people go through when they're making this decision.
Right.
So did a ton of listening. And then I translated the marketing journey into this like foster and adoption journey. With, and it wasn't just me. I worked with my team so that we could get it right, so that it was authentic and we were using their language. We're using things that they are seeing and experiencing. And,
Right.
and then we created this beautiful visual that made sense for them. It was sort of like a little, it showed like the awareness phase and what we had, what we called it for the foster care terms. And it was almost like a beautiful game board, and people could
Right.
see where people would follow the path of the customer journey or that foster awareness journey. And also we made sure it was visible that people slide back. So that's the thing with this kind of new customer journey, is that people are human. They're not going to follow one step and then the next step and then the next step. They don't do
Right.
that. It's like
Right.
a pinball machine, right? They're just like bing, 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 bing. They could enter at any, some people will come in and they'll be like, oh, I'm ready to buy. I'm ready to buy right now. Right. And then, but they haven't done any exploration. And so they get to the sales team and then they're like, oh, wait, I got to back up, right? We don't want to let a person exit the journey. We want to like bring them to a new spot, support them through it so they can ping pong around, right? So I like to create this that's company wide, that people can look at and understand it's specific to their industry. And then
Right.
we make a plan to support people as they're making their buyer's journey. We want to make the sales team, I work with a lot of B2B. And so sales is a big piece of it. Marketing should support sales.
Right.
So, what can we do to have better qualified sales leads? How can we support people in their decision making? How can we support them talk to their bosses? Like, what do they need? And then we make sure we just have it available whenever they're ping ponging around. So,
Nice.
so that's been a really fun thing that I've been doing, is how do we make these things custom and how do we make them actually work? So it's not just like an exercise that you do and then you put it on the shelf and we don't think about it and we don't ever talk to anybody else in the business about it.
Right. Right.
Anymore, marketing needs to be cohesive with every department, because every department has a key in customer satisfaction, retention, all of that.
I think it's such a big deal these days that marketing be recognized as something that has to be done in all departments and across the board. And I think that in the old days with bigger, larger corporations, they had their marketing department and it was always a disconnect, but they were huge. So they could do stuff like that. They'd have their marketing and their advertising split, which is like crazy nowadays. And or they'd be split from their sales departments and their fulfillment. And I think nowadays at least the trend that I'm seeing is that the corporations are starting to recognize that the marketing has to be everywhere, has to be across, it has to be company wide so that everybody is in alignment and succinct. And I think that's starting to now finally trickle down, and the mid-size and smaller size companies are recognizing that, okay, well, I guess if the bigger corporations are doing it now, it's important that we do it too. And I can hear that in what you're talking about here. Talk to us a little bit more about how, I'm sure some people listening are hearing what you're talking about going, that's cool. I need to learn more about it. So talk to us a little bit about how people could learn more about that, learn more about what you do and how they could get in touch with you. Just give us kind of the scoop of where they can go.
Yeah, well, I'm a huge nerd, so I love talking about this stuff. Um, so I think the best place to find me is my website, which is followthewildpath.com. I've got kind of all that static information, but I really love showing up on LinkedIn. So
Right.
I love having conversations there. Unfortunately, my name is Katie Smith. So if you just search that, I won't be the first to come up. But so I have Katie Smith Wild Path. So if you just type that in there, like for Wild Path Consulting, that's the best way to find me. I would love to connect. I could talk about this stuff all day. I really love it. I'm really passionate about it.
That's awesome. Well, before we let you go, I'd love you to leave us with some words of wisdom from your journey, just for all the listeners out there, before we head out.
So I think the biggest mistake that people make is thinking, what do I want to tell my customer? Because we're so deep in it. But the best thing you can do for customer is just shift your lens a little bit and think, what do they need to hear from me? What are they thinking? What are they feeling? So looking from your customer's eyes, that's the biggest game changer.
I love that. I love that. Well, I appreciate you so much, and I'm sure everybody listening today does as well. Business choreography is what makes up your show, guys. You might have a one-man band or a crazy circus or a finely tuned ceremony, but no matter what, if it's working, there's choreography behind it. And if it's not, there probably isn't. Remember, it's your show, and if you don't choreograph it, it's probably going to suck. So until next time, keep choreographing your business, and we'll see you all on the next episode. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today.
Want more business choreography?
Check out our website at bizchoreo.com to find out more.
And find out how the choreography for your marketing, operations, and sales can raise your revenue and create more impact.
Remember, every business needs choreography.